What up, big boys? Today we're gonna make some Mongolian beef. We're gonna start with some marinated beef and spice it up with some aromatics. And once it gets in the pan, it will look like this. But first, we're gonna start with making some rice. I like to use brown rice. And luckily, I have a rice maker that we can use to make this go a little bit faster, a little bit easier. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this pot out of the rice maker and take it over and fill up with some rice. So the rice maker comes with a special cup. It's not a full cup, but it tells you exactly how much to get for a single scoop. And there's markings on the inside of the bowl so you can fill up the water appropriately, and the rice maker will take care of the rest. I hope you guys are enjoying the look at some of the groceries we got recently. I'm still working out the GoPro view, and that's why you're seeing not the pot. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and wash this rice. We're gonna just fill up the pot with some water, run our hands through it, get some of that grime off of the rice. That's not really a safety or health thing, it's more just for the rice cooker to make sure it doesn't get clogged up. We'll get rid of some of that dirty water, and then we'll rinse it again. Alright, so now we're going to look at the line to fill. We put 2 scoops in, so we're going to fill to the 2 line, and that'll be that. Alright, now we got the water and the rice, and we're going to put that in the rice cooker, and that'll sit there. Now, instead of starting this right away, we're going to set a time so that this cooks and is ready exactly when we want it to be ready. So I'm filming this early in the morning, and we're going to eat sometime around 6 or 7. So I'm going to set this to be ready around 6, and I can change the time later if I need. Once I have the time I want, I can just either hit start or just let it go, and it will start on its own. So now the rice part of this meal is done. This will take care of itself, and it'll be ready when we're ready to eat.
6 hours later.
So we'll start with the beef marinade. We have some flank steak here. That's a good substitute for skirt steak. Definitely want to cut against the grain. And I'm going to chunk this up into some smaller pieces to handle it a little bit easier. We're going to make this into some pretty thin slices so they can easily be cooked stir fry style. Alright, time for an outside opinion. And Christy said they were too thick, so we're going to cut them down the middle so we don't ruin that grain. This cutting is taking long enough that I'm sure Gramps is already asleep. Hopefully I don't make this series too long for Reese to find interesting. I wonder if Cole will participate in this punishment. Justin, you're not allowed in the big boy kitchen unless you bring Allison. Alright, we're going to start with the marinade, and that starts out with some baking soda. And next we're going to have some fish sauce. This is going to give that umami flavor. I know Jake is looking for the Judy joke in there somewhere. Alright, right here, I straight up got confused by the recipe. It said 2 tablespoons, and I was using a half teaspoon. So I decided, oh yeah, let's mix those up and do a full tablespoon in the middle of all that, on top of my 2 half teaspoons that I've already put in. For those of you counting at home, that means I have 4 half teaspoons left to do. And I run out of fish sauce in that bottle. Good prep work, Mitch. Luckily we had another bottle. That was close. The next thing to add is the arrowroot starch. This is what's going to kind of give it that gravy texture, that silky texture. Struggling. I bet you guys weren't expecting Edward teaspoon hands here. Next, the soy sauce. Gotta have the soy sauce. Double take on the recipe. Alright, so that's 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, but turns out the printed recipe that I had was for 1 pound of meat, so I'm doubling everything. But I didn't double anything else but the fish sauce and the soy sauce so far. So Christy's helping explain that to me now. There's a pretty good chance I'm going to embarrass myself with some of the recipes you guys submit. Alright, and with the assist from Christy, we're going to finish up this marinade here shortly. Okay, time to mix up the meat and the ingredients to make sure all of the meat is covered. Make sure that all the ingredients are mixed in well. We shouldn't have any of the baking soda or the starch kind of laying around. I want to make sure that's truly mixed in there. At the end of the mixing, the meat should feel as silky smooth as Jake's voice does on his podcast. Definitely time to wash the hands. And we'll go ahead and cover up the meat, and we're going to go ahead and put that in the fridge. It doesn't need to be in the fridge for very long, about 20 minutes minimum, but it can be in there as long as you want. If you want to do this work the night before cooking it, you could do that. In this case, it's a good thing it can go for longer than 20 minutes because the aromatics are going to take me quite a while. Aromatics time. We'll start with the scallions, green onions, whatever you want to call them. With the amount of vegetables that Peter eats, I know he doesn't know what to call them. Making sure to wash all of our vegetables here, another thing that Peter probably doesn't know about. We'll keep a running list of things we're teaching Peter through this series. Alright, first we're going to split these green onions apart into the white and green parts. We're going to remove the roots at the end and throw those in the trash. Into the trash with my fantasy team. We're going to cut these into pretty small pieces widthwise, and they'll be adding a lot of flavor to the dish once they're cooked. And we're going to put those into this bowl on the side, and that's where we're going to actually put all of our aromatics, including the peppers, which are coming up next. Alright, and we're going to take the green parts and set those aside for now. We will be using those later, but we're going to go ahead and start on the peppers. And we're going to start by showing you the way not to do this. Cutting off the top is the right way to do this, but the rest of the way that we do this first pepper is not the way you want to do it. I'm trying to be careful of the seeds. The seeds are actually really dangerous for dogs, so anytime I drop one, I'm picking them up. So apologies for the break in action, but make sure that if you have dogs at home and you do this, make sure to clean up after your seeds. Alright, the way not to do this, just cutting it in half right away, down the lengthwise. That makes taking care of the seeds inside extremely difficult, and you'll see this is going to take me a long time to take care of just this one pepper. Alright, so we want those thin slices. Again, pretty much everything in this dish is supposed to be thin. stir fry in general. It's supposed to be very thin pieces. We don't want to make them so thin that they're as thin as Millen's ankles. That could jeopardize the structural integrity of each of the pieces. Oh yeah, and that rice is still cooking. Just started cooking in the rice maker, so that'll be ready in about an hour or so. Once again, it's just doing the work for us. Kind of like how Carson's going to do the draft work for Peter this year. Okay, the rest of the peppers we're going to do the right way. Take the top off, and then you can look down the barrel of the pepper itself, and we want to disconnect that interior core from the sides. Once we do that, then we're going to make one slice down one side of the pepper, and then we're going to kind of peel that back. That will let us take care of the center and more of the seeds more quickly, and we'll be able to get through these peppers a little bit faster than that first one. Not the best view of what I'm trying to show you, but there will be another opportunity to show you on these other peppers. In any case, here's the peel of the pepper, and you can see that the interior is kind of staying together. So we'll separate the sides. And here you can see we can just rip that entire core out on its own, and then we're left with mostly just pepper with a little bit of white parts and seeds. So that's much faster than the first way we did this. It's really important to get rid of all the seeds. If you don't get rid of all the seeds, they'll get cooked in with the rest of the aromatics and the beef. That'll make the dish really, really spicy, almost unbearable. We have accidentally done that before, and that dish was more hostile than a sheesh after the Gibson trade with Karsten. You can see that I'm doing this without gloves and handling the seeds and the interior of the peppers. And you'll be able to see a little bit that my fingers do get a little bit red. I recommend doing this with gloves, especially if you have sensitive skin. Despite some pretty thorough hand washing, my fingers were still stinging the next day. I know the people on Food Network and other things like that are professionals, but I still wonder how they get through taking care of peppers and other things that are really detail oriented for those quick shows like Chopped and everything else that has a timer. These peppers and onions took me a long time, longer than it took to get through the entire setup for the beef marinade. Alright, the Fresno chilies are done. Now we're going into the serrano peppers. We like to do both. It adds a good amount more color to the dish, which is very pleasing to the eye. I've called in some backup, and Christy will be helping me finish this up because it's taking me too damn long. The serranos are a little bit thinner, so it is more difficult to use the technique I talked about with the Fresnos. But in any case, doing a slice down the side is still easier than just cutting all the way through the pepper. Once again, sorry for the poor GoPro view here, but I will be getting a stand coming up here, so that should improve for you guys. To the trash with all y'all's marble takes. Alright, and now we're just going to cut up the green parts of the green onions. These are going to go as pretty much a garnish, only to be added at the end of the cooking period for the entire dish. And Christy's just finished making some chicken in the oven. We're doing a little bit of meal prepping. And we'll gather up the unused parts and throw them in the trash with the Georgia Tech men's basketball team this year. Alright, now we're going to prep the pan for cooking the meat, which will get cooked first on its own from that marinade. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. Okay, we're back. We're going to put some olive oil in this pan and get it up to temperature. Check on the rice. Until that timer says 10 minutes, this is still trying to cook, but it smells good though. This one goes out to you, Tyler. Don't forget. Alright, time to add the meat to the hot pan. We're going to try and make this as single layered as possible and get as much of that juice out of the bowl as possible as well. So we're going to spread this out and we're going to let it cook for a while. Lucky for me, Christy's going to wash that bowl for me so I can use that when this is done. We're going to end up cooking the meat until it's browned, and then put it in the bowl on the side while we cook the aromatics. Hey, look, it's Millie. Surprisingly, she stayed out of the kitchen until now. Because this is a lot of meat in the pan, I'm going to go ahead and start flipping, even though it's not truly crisped on certain sides. I want to just make sure that all of the meat is properly cooked. Christy with the smell test. Seems good. We're going to put all of the meat in this bowl and try and get as much of the juice out of the pan as possible as well. And then we're going to dry the pan. This is just to help with the aromatics and let them cook on their own, and then we'll add the meat at the end. Double check on the recipe in case I screwed something else up. Don't want to have that mistake this late in the game, but worth a check. Kind of like you don't want to hit Mahomes out of bounds in the AFC Championship game with under 30 seconds. It's dumb, but it can happen. Anyway, the rice cooker is now under 10 minutes, so we will be prepared to get the rice once the rest of this cooking is done. Alright, so we're adding the chopped up green onions and the slices of serrano and Fresno chili peppers, along with 6 tablespoons of garlic. 6 large cloves of minced garlic is equivalent to a tablespoon each. Alright, so we're going to mix that around and then add some ginger powder on that just to give that a little bit lighter flavor. But then we're gonna cook this down for about a minute or two. Alright, so that's about done. We're gonna add the beef back in and mix that all around together so that we can get some of that pepper and green onion and ginger and garlic flavor on the meat itself. We're cooking this for a minute or two more just to get those cooked together. Shake that up a little bit and set it aside so it can cool down just a little bit, but we want to serve that pretty hot. We're going to add in those green parts of the green onions, mix that around, and then let that sit there. We don't really want to cook the green parts of the green onions because then they get really thin and kind of gross. But if you put them in there after you've taken the pan off the heat, then they work really nicely with the dish. More Millie time. She heard the pantry open, so she came running. I know, that was the best part of the video. Alright, the rice is done. Currently it is just setting to warm, but here you go. Fully cooked rice. We're gonna fluff that a little bit and then serve it onto the plates as a little bed for our dish. Alright, and it is serving time. We'll just close this and that'll continue to warm until we turn it off so we can take care of the rice later. Gotta take a picture for the gram and ready to eat. See you guys next time.